Good evening, everyone. How are you today? We're certainly very excited that you're here joining us. This is actually a series of solo webinars, and you're attending the second one, the second of four. Last month, we had a novice solo seminar, and tonight we're going to have the beginning solo seminar for the beginner classification. Next month, we'll go into intermediate, followed by, you guessed it, the advanced. So we're very happy that you're here. This is a very exciting presentation that we have planned for you with some great presenters. So we're anxious to share everything with you. I, first of all, want to inform you about the protocol. This is something that you're very familiar with. First, I would like for you to know that this meeting is going to be recorded, and you're going to be able to see this, view it, and review it on YouTube very shortly. Secondly, I want you to know that if you're comfortable, please turn your camera on. We'd like to see your face if possible. That's always nice, rather than looking at a black box. And thirdly, please stay on mute for the entire presentation so that we can avoid any outside interferences with noises. At the end of the presentation, we will invite you to ask questions. Also, during the presentation, please feel free always to type any questions or comments that you may have in the chat box. You're all very familiar with that. And so this is the protocol, and I wish you all a very good evening. And first of all, today's a very historical day. Who's going to be the very first baton twirler on in space? Let's see who's going to be in that race, shall we? Anyway, here we go. Let's take a look at the beginning solo webinar, and we're again very, very happy that you're here. I do want to say preface all this by saying that this webinar is a series, and we're very developmental. The USTA really is very progressive and very developmental in how the athletes are trained, the coaches are trained, the judges are trained, and how the technical committee coordinates all of that with rules and structure within our USTA format. So therefore, I want you to know that we're all on the same team. We're all working together. We all rely on each other. And basically, this is presented as a result of the work by the coaches department. So this is endorsed by the coaches department, the judges department, and of course the technical committee and the technical department as well. My name is Dale White, and I'm the director of professional development. This evening's presenters is going to be Cassandra Broadway, Cassie as we know her, she's from the coaches department, Wendy Campbell-Mall, who's representing the judges department, and Coralie Slagle representing the technical department. And again, welcome. We're glad you are here. And so this brings us to, why are we talking about solo and why now? We all know what solo is. Why are we doing this? Well, as you know, the USTA is very, very strong in our philosophy that solo is the most important event that builds all of the other disciplined events. And so therefore, it's the building blocks of solo, and it sets the athletes up for great success. You ask why now? Well, it's important that all coaches and judges are on the same page. You know, and USTA endorses this working relationship among the athletes, coaches, and the judges. So this series brings those voices together as one. And it's one voice from which we speak, and all the information is then given to you. I think it kind of answers the age-old question as to what are the judges looking for and what am I supposed to be doing as a coach? Yeah. So therefore, you know, let's get started. The solo discipline is a baton-dominant event comprised of balanced representation of the three modes of twirling, such as aerials, rolls, and contact material. And of course, this is all enhanced with body skills and simultaneous blending. It's the job of the choreographer and the coach to make sure that the three modes are connected and demonstrate a continuity and flow. We'll talk a lot about that tonight. That athletes should utilize performance qualities that are appropriate to solo. Okay, very good. Moving right along. We have the basics. The basics of solo is very, very strong, and it's very, very important. It's really important in the novice level. and now we're building it with the beginning level, because without those basics and without that developmental skill and without that general handling, the soft hands and a user-friendly approach, the athletes are not given the best opportunity and for potential of success in the future years of their career, and especially with the other events. So the quality actually comes from you, the coach, as you actually teach a skill. However, your job is twofold, because really importantly is how you put those skills, those taught skills together in a good routine construction format that gives them the best opportunity for success. You know, we can really teach a skill and be very happy with that and be very well achieved, but it's really the strong coach, you, that how you put those skills together that's going to give you and your students the best opportunity for success. Now, in the three modes of twirling, we do stress contact material is first. Why? That's general handling. We all start with a figure eight and a reverse figure eight and all of those wonderful skills at a very rudimental level. Secondly, we emphasize rolls. And then thirdly is aerials. And of course, it's the connection that we really want to keep driving home. This is the priority of our development, is just how those are all connected. So it's really important that you keep that in mind. And there's key tips for success here. So moving right along, you want to make sure that the body work that you incorporate and you introduce to your athletes does not interfere with the baton at a beginning level. Because at the novice level, as you knew from last month, and as you know now, we're really stressing baton handling first and foremost. So you want to keep any body work that's going to be incorporated with any of these routines or with any of their skill development very minimal, so that the athletes can really concentrate simply on the baton. Try to keep your routines sectional, keeping it vertical, rolls horizontal. You know, if you keep changing direction, if you keep changing pattern, that becomes a mental block for the athletes at a beginning level. They're not able to think about continuity, flow, seamlessness, you know, and flow from one element to the other. So try to keep everything logically choreographed and logically constructed for them. You know, although we are introducing a few variety of catches, at the beginning level, you're still stressing follow through and general handling first. Variety of catches really doesn't come into the picture until probably the intermediate level, where it's going to actually make a big impact. Even at the beginning level, we're still looking for that flow. Also too, you know, as I stated last month in the novice solo webinar, this whole study of circles is so important. Have you ever watched a fire baton twirler or a twirler with lighted batons? They're usually in the dark, and all you can see is these circles going around and round and round. And once those circles stop, as that fire baton stops, you can really see that interruption. Well, think of that as you construct a routine for a beginning solo student. That really what you're doing is you're studying and exploring, and you're introducing continual circles, whether it be rolls, it's a circle, aerials, obviously it's a circle, the baton's a circle, and certainly contact material. So if you kind of look at just the motion and the whole flow of how the baton works within a routine, it's always a circle, isn't it? So it's the study of circles that's really important. That's going to help you to try to create the routine in terms of continuity and flow, and it's certainly something that the athlete needs to know in order to catch the baton and to keep the baton moving in that circular pattern. So anyway, I think that the follow through is the most important thing, and we want to make that a habit. So creating and establishing great habits at the beginning level for these athletes is absolutely crucial. Now, in the C and the B compulsories, they're our friends. They are truly our friends, because this is a great start for a skill syllabus, isn't it? So if you really get confused as to really what to teach at a beginning level, just refer to the compulsories, and that will give you a developmental syllabus outline to start. And I think that those are really, really good starting tools for you as you start building those moments. So anyway, we're ready to twirl. And I would like to introduce to you Cassandra, Cassie, Broadway, who's going to be speaking to us and showing us some combinations based off of what we've already learned in novice. This is all developmental. So, and as you know, as a coach, you're going to take these athletes from novice to beginner to intermediate to advanced, and you're going to keep building that skill. One thing about the solo routine is that you really don't have to totally. You do have to make sure that everything is built on the solo. So this is why
I'll be back
What
with
time
the
the other
directions.
ladies were here?
Okay.
You did it too.
We're ready to start. Cassie, so take it away.
All right. Hello. Good evening. Thank you, Dale, for the introduction. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for coming. And for those that weren't able to make last month's webinar, I would just like to give you a refresher of what Corey presented at the novice level. So I'm going to start there. So first we start over here. I'm going to try to back up a little bit. Okay. And our first element is the reverse 8. Okay. We come over and then we come back over into another 2 reverse 8s. We come into a wrist swirl and a flying 8, although I like to call it a flying angel. Whatever you call it is great. Okay. And then we come into our whip, flourish, whip, and hand roll. Okay. Into the left hand, right into those left hand figure 8s. Okay. And then we come up into our left hand wrist roll, back into 2 more reverse 8s. We come up and over into matched hand, flourish, whip. And then at this point, at the novice level, we would be doing a thumb toss. Okay. So that's our very base. And I'm going to go from there. So at the beginner level, we're going to start off same. Okay. And reverse figure 8s. Now, if you're at a lower beginner, you're going to want to come over, and this should look familiar to those that know the compulsory system. Okay, if you have a more advanced beginner, like a high beginner, you could introduce the catcher on the back. Okay, so we start here. We're going to start in the same sort of position here. Reverse 8, flourish. Okay, I'm going to keep here. Around, sorry, come around for the flying 8 or flying 8 here. Okay, and instead of doing the hand rolls to the left, we're going to do thumb tosses. Okay, and so 1, catch right, catch left, right into that left hand figure 8. And then we come around, and here we can introduce the backhand toss. Okay, the beginner level is probably a good opportunity to introduce that backhand toss. Okay, so we're going to introduce the backhand here. And sorry, so back to the novice, we had our reverse 8s here and around, reverse 8s, matched hand, flourish, whip, and thumb toss. Okay, so at this point, we are here, backhand, and we can flip back to the right, come here, and depending on the level of your beginner athlete, they may be doing a 1 turn, hopefully at that point, or even a higher level beginner, they would be doing a 2 spin. Does anybody have any questions? No?
I hope everybody saw the circular pattern. As you were doing that, Cassie, I was really trying to envision the fire baton and that constant circle that we see. So yeah, very good.
And Cassie, from the judging perspective, I think the things that we would really hone in on also too is just the repetition that you've introduced, that we're able to really see a nice clean thumb release. And then you're doing that from the right hand, as well as you're then demonstrating it from the left hand as well. I also appreciate the fact that if the athlete is ready, that you're trying a variety of catches. Even just the arm circle is introducing some variety. And if they're able to challenge themselves with the back catch, those are all the types of things that the judges would be looking for. Continuing to build on the circles, as well as introducing the repetition and the follow through. So that would be a nice beginning and be appreciated from the judging perspective.
Thank you,
Great,
Wendy.
of course.
That was Wendy Campbell Mall, USTA professional judge, of course, and she's going to be speaking throughout the presentation as well. The other thing I would like to mention as well is that it's really important, if nothing else, remember all athletes at a beginning level, when they're receiving the baton in their right hand, whether it be from a thumb toss or a one spin, the continuity in the flow is what? It's not locked against the arm. It's the reverse figure eight follow through. That's the most important thing. If they're receiving it in the left hand with the left hand catch, what are they going to do? It's a left hand reverse figure eight. So that continuity and flow, the athletes and the coach, you may be very excited about just the catch. That's great, but let's get really excited about how that follow through is occurring as well. Okay, great.
Right. So as you say, it's not good enough to just catch it. You got to make it great with a follow through eight. So that's either reverse or forward. That applies to both. Okay, so I'm going to move on to section 2, which is the roll section. At this novice level, they have a very basic posture, shoulders over hips, over ankles. And again, just to refresh, this is what was done on the novice level. Flourish, elbow, proper takeoff with the roll, arm roll, and then we go into the hand rolls, okay, forward, reverse, forward, forward, into the arm, right into that 8, and then, reverse, forward, 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 and then underneath the arm. And then we did a little paddle here. So that was the novice level. And what's great about rolls is that when athletes understand the basic, because at the novice level, it's really single elements. And for the beginner, you want to, start to connect the rolls. So here we would do the elbow extension into maybe the elbow retraction. And then again, you can go right into your left hand, right? So you can try the left hand reverse figure eights. Fishtails, right? So the whole goal of rolls at this point is connecting those basic elements that they learn in novice. So here we're gonna do flourish here. Okay, I have this taking off going right here. And we're gonna go into one fishtail. Now, we could also do double elbow layout into fishtail or extension into retraction layout, fishtail, okay? But the goal is doing the forward, pushing down into reverse, and then again, doing whatever you're doing in your right hand into your left hand. You might also want to start to add the little elbow pop in at the beginner level, right, Wendy?
Yeah, and I was going to add also, I think what I appreciate about that is you're also exposing them to open rolls and closed rolls because you're doing the elbows as well as the layouts. And I really liked to see that students or athletes are building from hand rolls into fishtails. So I think at the beginner level, even if you're still including hand rolls to help them get their fishtail going, that always helps me as a judge know that they've been properly developed and they're going to continue to be a good roller because they have that progression. I think also too at the beginning level, not maybe necessarily right at the very entry level of beginning, but also to start to introduce just a half flat back neck roll is also important as well, and getting them to use both left and right. While we know in beginner, they're probably going to be more right hand dominant, learning to do forward and reverse and left and right is proper training. So as you're training your beginning athletes, that might not be something that's in the routine all the time, but you want to make sure that you're training them forward and reverse and left and right.
So the other thing that I would like to bring up as well is that, it's perfectly okay, coaches, that you include novice level roles, single element roles within a beginning student, a beginning routine. There's nothing certainly wrong with that. It's a developmental process, and it's certainly not a fact that once the student goes into the beginner category, that everything that they've done in the novice goes away. No, it doesn't. It really is built. So there's going to be that combination. It's the combination of the isolated novice roles that are in combination that really create the beginning level role. And those roles obviously could look very similar, but because the combination, as Wendy says, the judge is looking for that combination, looking for the variety, within that, and that's what's going to give them that level. If we can go right to the, you can see that when we go into this next slide here, I wanted to let you know, coaches, that the judges, what Wendy is talking about is a scale. It's a judge's scale that we have. And this judge's scale is based on participation, growth, special achievement, outstanding achievement, and mastery. So did you know that if you are truly, truly a beginner, that those beginner athletes at a competition are going to receive something between a 3.0 and a 4.9. So based off of all of these levels and all of this development. Now you can see that this is all positive points. There's no negative points. So what 3.0 means that they've now achieved the level out of novice, and they're now in the lower level of the beginner. They're ready to grow in this area. They grow, they're in the 3.5 to a 3.6 range. So I think it's kind of interesting and good that the coaches are aware that this is the tool that the judges use. Is that right, Wendy?
Get myself off mute. Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like about the judges scale is that based on what I see, I'm able to put them into a beginning classification, and then based on their technical merit and how things are being performed, I can find the sub range of participation, growth, special achievement, outstanding, and mastery. So it's a great way for the judges to make an immediate decision and then alter their score at that, as things are wrapping up into what sub range they're going to be in.
One misconception, I think, is that coaches that may not be judges may think that these numbers and these scales represent material or actual moves within a program. And as you can see, I hope you can now understand that it's the relationship of the material, but more importantly, the how it's performed, these circles, the follow through, the continuity, the flow, all of those things that enhance that material, that really creates the value of a program, not just the inherent one spin or a two spin or a double elbow roll or whatever, but it's everything together that creates that value. So I'm hoping that maybe if you've never judged before, that you'll see that that's how USTA endorses the adjudication of the beginner's level. All right, so back to Cassie. I think that we're ready for the next section, right, Cassie?
Almost. I actually have a question for Wendy.
Yes.
So if you have an athlete, as we so often see and deal with as a coach, if you have an athlete that's much stronger in rolls or much stronger in contact, how do you weigh that athlete compared to, say, a more, maybe not as skilled, but even level athlete that has the contact, the rolls, and the aerials?
That's a really good question, Cassie. The beginning level is going to give you athletes just by definition that are probably more dominant in one area over the other. Rarely are you going to see a true balance at the beginning level. So, that's within the judge's decision making as to where that balance is at and how you're going to reward that. Something that is more balanced in my eyes, is probably going to be rewarded higher than something where I see one mode truly dominant over the other. But it's definitely a case by case basis, but that's generally how the judging community would look at that.
All right, great. Thank you. I think we had a question from Jackie. Is it possible to be entered in the beginner level and score either below or above the number shown? That's a really great question. Thank you, Jackie.
Absolutely. There could be, depending on how you're, entering a lot of, just for exposure, novice athletes will enter beginning as well. So while beginning athletes in that division may typically score in the beginning range, that is not necessary. They could score below or they could score above.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Wendy said there. If you have an athlete, coaches, that has entered the beginning solo category at a competition, and they get a score of a 1.7, that's information to you and to the athlete for sure that athlete was not perceived as a beginner athlete at that level, at that day. That was definitely a score that a novice would achieve. So there are those situations that occurred. This is why it's really important, I think, that coaches become exposed and familiar with the judging scale to some degree so that they can have some sort of a reference, to that. So yeah, thanks, Jackie, for asking that question.
If anyone else has any questions, throw them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them as soon as we see them. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to section 3, which is our horizontals. Again, I'm just going to review our novice level. And here we start in the right hand. Okay, we spin it to the left. We come under and over. So the athletes are learning a little bit of wrist flexibility there with the neck wrap, right into the left hand horizontal wrist twirl, and pop up to the right into the wrist twirl. And Corey added a fancy little palm spin into a horizontal pass. So there's many things that we can start to introduce at this beginner level, really, because at the novice level, we're just doing wrist twirl. So the beginner level, we really want to introduce the horizontal figure 8, which you learn in your compulsories. Okay, so here, and maybe at this point, Wendy, is where we add in our flat back necks, right? Okay, and we're gonna take off because I believe we do 1, 2, 3, right? And we take off with our left. And so from there, we can go into our flat horizontal figure 8 and toss, one spin. If your athletes aren't comfortable doing a one spin at this level, they can, practice a nice high toss. And again, the importance is doing that follow through into a wrist twirl. We like to call this a baloney roll because it's below the knee, and this introduces a backhand catch. So just again, another little variety. There's many things that you could do, but a few examples for you.
Yeah, and Cassie, some really great examples there. I think the one thing that I, from a judging perspective, would really be focused on in that section is pattern. The flat pattern is always something that can be difficult for the beginning level, as well as continuing to look at that wrist flexibility, especially when you're in the left hand, and if you're trying to do a figure 8 with the left hand, if they're doing any type of flat release. Also, release points are really important at the beginning level too. Where are they releasing from? Flat, are we releasing from our chin? Are we really trying to release more from the middle of our body? Same thing with vertical releases as well. Are we getting it good off the thumb placement as well? And I think one big thing when Dale was talking before, and I don't know as a lot as coaches that we focus on this, but I know as a judge I do, and even at the very novice levels, is error recovery. And are your athletes able to recover from an error and know how to get back into their routine. And while at novice and beginning, they're not going to be as good at it, it's important to train them at it. And I think error recovery is a big thing, as well as their performance qualities. Can they put a smile on their face? Can they invite me into their performance with eye contact or facial expressions? Like I tell my fourth graders in the classroom, I'm the most important person in the room teaching. When an athlete is out and performing in front of me, I'm the most important person in the room. So I want them to bring me into their performance and really engage me. And you know what? When I'm engaged, I may be another 10th higher or another 2/10 higher. So those are types of things that you don't necessarily always think about from a coaching perspective. You might just send them out to the floor and, oh yeah, don't forget to smile. But if you're really training them in those performance qualities, they're going to become very inherent for them, and they're not going to have to think about that so much while they're performing the rest of their program.
Yeah, you know, twirling is so physical and mental, isn't it? And sometimes we spend so much time on the physical, the pattern, the proper technique, the proper hold, the proper grip, that when we're training athletes, we're also training them mentally as well. So this is why at a novice and a beginning level, you have those repetitious moments, continual reverse figure eights, continuous figure eights. What that does is that lets the performer, the athlete, get comfortable, get used to that flow, and it gives them a little bit of composure so that they can then think ahead as to what's coming up next. Sometimes if the construction of the routine is so packed beyond their level, they may be able to do the skills in isolation, but maybe not together in a flowing manner. And so this is a problem with construction. So I think that coaches need to really think about how the construction of the routine impacts the athlete physically and mentally as they go through this. And I think that at a novice and a beginning level, that's really important. Obviously, the higher level athlete, when they're up in the advanced and the elite categories, they're pretty with it. They can pretty much do just about anything that you ask them to do. So I think that training is really important, you know, at this level here. I think we have another question here. Jackie asked, how do you know when an athlete is ready to add a new skill to their solo? Good question. Cassie, you want to handle that?
So, of course. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, I think when the athlete has displayed that they can do the element without any type of error. I mean, let's not say any type of error, but without a major error, and that they understand the element and what comes after that. I think that, you know, especially like with rolls, you know, a hand roll is very like a basic element that they learn, right? So if they don't understand where that's supposed to roll, or what their fingers are doing, or what their hand is doing, then they're not ready for that fishtail yet. So you know, it's the physical and it's the mental, right? So when they can display both of those things, then I think that you can start to introduce the more advanced elements. Sorry.
We really want things to look easy, right? You know, we say the buzzword all the time, the soft hands. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't refer to the moisturizer that they use before they go out on the floor. Soft hands means actually how the baton is entered in the hand and how it's manipulated. A very wise old coach that was a mentor of mine years and years and years ago said to me, you know, you can really tell the quality of a twirler by shutting your eyes and listening to them twirl. And I didn't really get that at first, but it really does make sense. Okay, because if you shut your eyes near a twirler and you actually hear the baton get into their hand from a toss, then it's really cracking their hand. But if you can't hear anything and it's like glassy smooth, that's soft hands, folks. That's when you can really know that they've got those hands. They're really developing hands. So when we say soft hands, that's what it means. It means how quiet and user-friendly the baton is. Is it gripped like in a harsh object, in their hand? So that's what we mean by that. And I think that's really important to kind of keep in mind. We try to make sure that it's the material is presented and make it look easy to the judge. Yeah, that's what we want. But I think all the coaches probably have some sort of a plan where, okay, so you can do a double elbow roll. That's great. Now you know that we're going to practice a triple elbow roll or a 4 elbow roll, but we're not going to do that in the routine just yet. We're not ready for that, but we are going to practice it. So I think that there's always something, you always practice a little bit more than what you're actually going to present. In baseball, you're going to have 2 bats getting ready. You're going to always have, you're going to twirl a lead bar in order for you to develop the muscles control that you need in your hands. You're always going to do practice more than what you really need or present in a competition. So I think that that's probably a good rule of thumb to keep in mind when it comes to, when do you put a harder trick in a routine, and when are they ready to do it? So, yeah, just something to think about. We do have more questions. Yay, you guys are
Yeah, we
good.
do.
Yay, from Carrie, do you emphasize speed at the beginning level or just continuity? Good question.
I don't think
I'll
speed
jump
is
in.
ever the goal, right? In a beginner, it's quality over quantity. So you want to make sure that the athlete knows and understands the assignment before they start speeding through it, right?
Right. And from a judging perspective, we would value continuity over speed. We would still want the speed to come along, absolutely, but we would value the continuity over the speed.
Absolutely.
And then there's another question from Kathy. What if there's 0 attempt at body detailing? How does that impact your assessment? I think, in the beginning level, we want to start seeing that blending of the body and the baton. We don't want to be body dominant, but we do want the detailing. So, assessing the attempts at body detailing are going to have a bigger impact on my assessment than one that has 0 attempts. And, detailing too can be with your free hand, with a tilt of the head. It can include only the lower body, or it can include, the head, the arm, and the feet. So I think depending on the level of your athlete, you want to look at how you can start detailing throughout your program.
And that really comes from the training as well, because I think at a novice and a beginning level, really what you're teaching first and foremost is posture. You're going to get your athletes to stand up straight. Second of all, you're going to get them to lunge, a basic second position lunge and a fourth position lunge. Basically, turning your feet out, making sure that the leg is straight. This is all body work at a beginning level. They're going to do susu. They're going to releve in 5th position when they do a flourish and a whip. Okay, that's body work. They don't have to do cartwheels and illusions and fan kicks and all of that stuff that comes with flexibility. There's time for all of that. In the beginning level, we really want to keep the basic body work to enhance and support all of these great baton twirling skills that they're learning. Isn't that right? I think everybody's agreeing with me on that. I think I'm hoping. We just don't want the baton to be interfered with. At a beginning level for sure. So yeah, thanks for that question. That was great. We have another question. This is from Kyle. Remembering that what is rewarded is perpetuated. Okay, how can the athlete grow successfully with a path to excellence rather than a path that includes corrections needed as they develop? Does this philosophy about long-term development become apparent in the reward of beginners?
Yeah, so I was at our twirl this weekend with a bunch of lovely professionals, and one of the things that Sandy was just reiterating is that you don't want to fill in the gaps. So you want to start at the very beginning, making sure that they understand and that they're doing proper technique so that they're proficient in the skill before they start to advance And then, you know, you're backtracking and having to fix bad habits and errors, which, you know, unfortunately as coaches, we do deal with that. But if you can start at the very beginning at that recreational level, then yeah. Oh, Dale, you're muted.
I knew it. I knew I was going to do that at least one time during the presentation. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to add too is that, you know, we live in a very small world now. You know, the world of twirling used to be really big, and we used to never see anybody worldwide. Now we do every day, you know, through social media and through Facebook and whatnot, Instagram. I think it's a great thing for coaches to be inspired by all the great twirling that you're going to see on social media and all of this. It's also a caution, a red flag too, that just because you're seeing the best of the best doesn't mean that you have to teach what you're seeing to those beginner and intermediates and even the novice levels of athletes. You still have to make sure that you're teaching, you know, the basic skills and that continuity and flow in those circles, because the athletes that you're seeing on social media, they started there, you know, and a lot of them are Japanese. Obviously, they post a lot of things on the social media, and they're beautiful to watch, you know, lovely to watch for sure. They're great. They just didn't all of a sudden start doing that. They started very, very basically, and they started very regimentally, and they started very, very progressively with just how to hold the baton, to grip the baton, you know, and just really, really, really strong basics. You know, like I've always said, you know, a good coach is one that can really teach a skill, and a better coach is one that can take those skills and put it together. But, you know, my respect for somebody that can actually take a beginner, not even a beginner, a novice athlete, and actually teach those skills those are our treasures in twirling, because that's a real talent. It's fun to have an advanced student and just to play with choreography and new things and experiment. That's all fun. That's great. And we love doing that. I love doing that. But to actually teach somebody a figure eight and a thumb flip, that's the greatest gift of all. And the most important aspect and the most important job that any coach in twirling can take on. So, you know, we've got to really respect that, and we have to really admire that in coaches, and we certainly need to applaud those coaches that are doing that, because that's our future. And without that kind of a coach that's teaching those skills to those athletes, we have nothing. We have no future. So it's really important that you you know, that you really kind of keep that in mind. I think that's very, very important. Jackie agrees. Thank you, Jackie. So yes, do we have any more questions or any more observations?
Well, I just want to piggyback on what you were just saying, is that, you know, teaching the advanced athletes is easy. You know, they're like a dream, right? I mean, teaching at the beginner level is probably one of the hardest parts. The novice level, you just want them to fall in love with the sport. You know, you're getting them to handle the baton and, you know, do fun things. But at the beginner level, that's really where a kid can take off or take off the other direction, right? So I do think this is a very exciting level to teach, but also very difficult. So we're here for you.
It's really important too. I think at the beginning level, isn't it interesting though that you see the greatest frequency of improvement so quick? Isn't it great to see you teach a thumb flip or a finger twirl or any kind of a skill, or reverse figure eight, and just to see the development and to see them improve is so rapid at that age. You know, it's almost like having an infant child. You know, each week as they grow, they change so dramatically, right? I mean, not that I would know, and I don't have any children or anything, but you know, that's how you see that growth in young people. And I think that's the same thing in twirling. It's less frequent, or is less growth in the upper levels, but a lot of growth in the lower levels. And so that's very rewarding. And I think that's something to be very proud of for all coaches to really take on, because it's very, very satisfying for sure. There's another question we have here. I love that the magic is still alive. Yes, the magic is still alive. It is, it truly is. I love at a competition when I'm judging, I love the young, naive faces and the sense of excitement. And I love when the kids will catch a trick or when they will do a good job and they get so excited, they run off and they run into their parents' arms. We don't see that at the advanced level so much. We see it at the young level, and that's exciting, and that's the love and the passion for the sport is built there in here in the novice and the beginning level. So yeah, we're a bunch of technicians, that's for sure. We're a bunch of constructionists, that's architectures, as it were. But what we're doing is we're passing on the love and the passion of our sport, and we're doing it at the most important level, and that's the novice and beginning level. So good for us, right? Yay, us. Keep on doing.
I just wanted to add also from a judging perspective, when we're judging the beginning level, we want to provide some constructive feedback, but it's also just as important for us to provide the encouraging feedback, that you're on your way, you've really got a great start on, some skill, to really encourage them that you're on the right path and let's keep going. But here's a couple other things that you can focus on, but continue that build up. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and the other thing too, I want to, add on to that too, is that, sometimes we get so immersed in competition, right? And sometimes competition will rear a not so good head, it'll rear an ugly head every now and then. So, I think that we have to control that as well, because it's a competition, and sometimes they're going to win, sometimes they're going to lose, and it really doesn't really matter at the end of the day. No, what really matters is that they're developing, they're growing, they're establishing themselves as great athletes, and they're loving what they're doing, and they're learning a lot of life lessons as a result of all of this. So, that truly is our job. It's a baton twirling coach has a lot of jobs. There's a lot of facets to what we do, and I think that we need to step back sometimes and recognize those things, and to, give us a little pat on the back as to what we're doing and how we're doing that. So yeah, that's really great. Kathy Butera Fanny, she says, build them up. I agree. Yeah, we got to build them up. Keep it building. Right. But anyway,
So,
yes, go ahead.
Sorry, can I answer that?
Yes,
While I'm on the coaches department, I am a level 3 judge, and so I judge mostly locally. But one of the best pieces of advice that I got was from Lisa LaMonica, and she said for every, so to speak, negative comment that she gives, she tries to do 3 positive from there, even if it's just as silly as, oh, what a pretty costume, or great freehand, just to continue to build them up. You take them down a peg, but then you try to build them back up with just the smallest amount of comment. And it does help, I think.
Absolutely. I think that, one of the most rewarding things for me recently has been our coaches network meetings that we've had. And we had one last night, and what we do typically, we'll have a class that we get to eavesdrop on. And last night we watched a two baton class taught by Shannon Barker to novice two baton athletes. And a very interesting technique that she has is she puts a lot of responsibility on them as athletes to contribute to the class. She will say to them, now add body work, and she lets them decide what they're going to do. And I thought that was really interesting, because even at a novice level, that gives you some kind of an ownership as to why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm not, going to be totally subservient like I am in school, but I'm going to be totally, as an artist, even at my little, a little 6-year-old novice level. So I think that that's an interesting technique, and she has some really great techniques in that regard. There's just a lot of things happening, I think, at this level in terms of coaching that certainly we can all utilize and keep building on. So yeah, it's very interesting. Someday we'll all write books, and we'll have a whole encyclopedia of baton twirling, right, in terms of coaching. Anyway, I do want to thank everyone for attending tonight. It's been fun visiting with all of you and kind of talking shop, my very favorite thing. I do want to encourage you to, if you haven't already, to go back, reference the novice webinar that we had. Then look at what we did today with the beginning webinar. Next month, we're going to have an intermediate webinar. And then finally, we will have the month after that, we will have the advanced webinar. So you can see the whole progression. And then after that, we'll have some more exciting webinars for you in other different topics. So if there's, we have no other questions, well, we have one more. Oh, Kyle just said thank you and such good info. Well, thank you, Kyle. Thanks for attending. We always appreciate the comments there. So anyway, thank you all for joining with us tonight. And if you have any questions, please feel free to, we're going to be on for a couple more minutes. If not, and if you want to reach out to any of us regarding literally anything in the world of coaching, please do so. We've got great representatives here from the coaches department, the judges department, and the technical department. We're always here to help you. We're all a big team, and we're all ready to build on what we've done, right? Okay, go team. Thank you all for attending tonight.